I love the argument about people don't change. I completely disagree. Some people will fight to the death believing that people don't change. I believe that if you're not changing, you're not experiencing enough.
Without further ado, I'm your host, Hamish McLaughlin-Lesser. We have Youre as a sound and video engineer today.
Greetings.
Shout outs to Owen. He can't be with us today. He's studying for an exam. And then we have the one and only Alexandra Bruhn.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So you work in the field of education, but would alternative education be the right way to put it?
It's hard to describe it. I get a bit iffy with the term alternative. I think people associate it with sort of, I don't know, less than school, or that it's a less than kind of way of learning. But I would say we're doing school differently is the best way I can put it for you.
Let's jump straight in.
Yeah.
How are you doing school differently? Because I know a lot of kids out there, they don't like school.
Yeah.
I didn't like school.
I think I was reading today the dropout rate's something like 1 in 4 currently.
What?
Yeah, scary.
Like in Adelaide or in Australia?
I think that was a national stat.
Oh my
Lord.
Lord.
Yeah, I was trying to find some Adelaide ones, but yeah, it's quite concerning. We can dive into some of the reasons why later on. But yeah, I guess my background is in sociology and anthropology, so I'm not a registered teacher per se. But currently working at a place called Youth Inc., which is a special assistance school. And I guess we're different in that everything we do is project-based. And the young people we take in are 17 to 24 years old, who, for whatever reason, and there's a myriad of reasons, a lot of them systemic, did not complete their SACE qualification the first time round, but are incredibly bright, capable young people. So we do a lot of exploring around what are the environments required to allow these young people to thrive, and if they are marginalised young people, how do you remove some of the barriers? So there's a big equity piece in the work we're doing, and how do we make project-based learning and enhancing those enterprise skills the new norm.
Okay, so there's a lot to jump in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Where to start? I mean, I guess let's start with what is project-based learning as opposed to, what's the alternative?
Yeah, so typically you'd be picking subjects, and a lot of it is that classroom-based, listening to an educator, and the learning is educator to young person. When we say project-based, a lot of it is hands-on, done in partnership with the community. So our belief, particularly at Youth Inc., is not that our building is the school, but it is the city is the school, or the world is the school, and it's learning out in the real world, real situations. A lot of our young people are hands-on learners, which is not, I don't believe it's catered to adequately yet in the conventional system. It is getting there. There's a shift.
Hands-on learners, as in trades?
On the job. No, not limited to trades. It's across anything really. There's a lot of musos, a lot of artists, but we also have a lot of young people with a keen interest in politics and a number of other quite academic-based concepts. But they learn in a way where they are actually in that environment. It's not this textbook learning.
Yeah, it's like in the doing of a project.
The doing is the word.
What kind of, do these projects have a time frame on them? Because obviously there's some projects you can work on in life that take many years.
Your whole life, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Currently, historically, we did try to work to a 10-week model, but we're finding that being flexible is the best way. So some of these projects, particularly done hand in hand with community, you can't make it fit that box. So we're all about let's just blow the box up, and let's go with what's adequate depending on what the project is.
Okay, so if you chose a project, is it like, hey, we need 20 people in the project, or is it like how do you even choose what a project is?
So when our young people come to us, so a lot of it is about holding these young people at the centre, right? I have a real grievance with the system in that we go, these are the subjects you can choose from, because we need a workforce that has this skill set. There's this real sort of lens on young people like they're livestock, they're the next workforce. So it's holding them at the centre and going, what is it that you want to learn?
Yeah. Well, just to quickly digress into that.
Yeah.
Isn't that because we literally created the current school model through the Industrial Revolution to create workers, and it hasn't been overly changed since then?
Yeah, so we're in the midst of what we're calling the fourth industrial revolution. So the first one was obviously, steam power, electricity was the post-World War. They automated everything. Second one was the cars. Third one, I'm not going to be able to remember it now. It was computers. And the fourth one is these heavily tech-based, like it's come in leaps and bounds, and our systems aren't changing rapidly enough, particularly in education, to equip people to be ready for that workforce. It's evolved so rapidly that it's frightening. But yeah, we're at a point now where it's not just producing workers that we need. And I think to go somewhere really deep, we're in the middle of things like the climate crisis, a number of things that are threatening humanity. It's not this workforce that we need, it's people who think differently and do differently, to sort of pull us out of this emergency that the world's in.
And do you see that like project-based learning in particular is like a tool to unlock people's creativity and how they can think about things, but like it can be any kind of industry or topic specific?
Yeah, absolutely. So I see it as we should be responding to young people's unique interests and talents. And if they don't know what they are yet, we should be providing what we call transformative learning opportunities for them to then discover what those unique interests are.
Oh, I'm keen to get into that. Okay, well, before we get into that, I just want to understand how you even choose projects, because I've done like personal development courses and we've chosen like a community project, but it's like you're creating your own, everybody creates their own community project, and then you have to go out and like enroll a team, and then over like a 3-month course, by the end of it, you have to hand on the leadership for someone else to actually execute it. So it's like the idea of like a leader creates leaders. But in terms of how you guys do it and even choose a project and how many people are in a project, and obviously the time frame being flexible depending on what's chosen, but like how do you navigate people for that? Because obviously they're not little kids, they're 17 to like 24.
No, they're young adults. It is very tricky, and we find we have to pivot every day to cater to what we're trying to achieve. So some projects will only have one student in them, they'll be independently doing something. Some will have 15. And it's hugely based on self-selection. So we'll look at their interests and we'll go, hey, we've got 5 that love music, and we've got 20 that want to learn political literacy, and we've got 3 that want to do, an art mural. So then we're going to go out to the community and source these things. So we're going to go, who in the community is doing this? How can we get our young people out, networking with them, doing a project with them? They might come to the table and say, hey, this is going to take 8 weeks. We want you to do a mural. And then we assemble a student team and they're going to do that. The really important part is if they haven't completed their SACE and these young people want it, we do what we call SACE by stealth, which is where we're not going to say you need to do community studies. We're going to say you're doing your mural project, you're doing, another project with, X amount of other stakeholders. And in the background, we're accrediting that to your community studies or your research project. But for these young people, it's not about that. It's about the connections they're making and what they're learning in this hands-on, real-world kind of way.
Sounds awesome. This sounds like all the learning I did when I finished uni.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So you guys have done murals?
Yeah.
What kind? Whereabouts?
Yeah, so there's a really cool place. They've just moved off Whitmore Square called the Drop-In Care Centre.
Okay.
And our young people have established a pretty amazing mural with a local artist called Sarah Keane as their mentor all along that space. There's quite a few they've done actually. I can't think of the top of my head where they all are, but yeah, they're pretty incredible young artists.
And how do people get involved in this type of schooling?
That's the $1 million question. So we've been operating for 4 years now with our sort of city location, and we did a lot of sort of call out when we enroll on the radio and in supermarkets. But we're finding at the moment through job providers and more peer-to-peer, so friends, students recommending their friends, that's where we're getting a lot of young people. And I think it's a trust thing.
Because it wouldn't work as like a 5-day-a-week school, would it? Because they're obviously they're older.
Yeah.
They're not like little kids.
Yeah.
So is it part-time? Is it after hours? Yeah. Like how does that even work?
It is full-time. They are full-time students. But it is flexible learning, and a lot of it is based upon self-selection.
So you're like, hey, how many, do you have a specific amount of hours you need to do a day?
It's so full-time learning, and I can't think what the number is, but we run 50 weeks of the year, so they actually don't do the school holiday breaks. And depending on what projects they're doing, it kind of determines their workload. So some weeks they might be doing 50 hours a week, and then some they might be doing 5. Depends on the projects they're currently working on. Yeah,
sounds very radical.
Yeah,
in like a very real life way.
Yeah,
it's like, it sounds like adulting with great guidance and a lot of community support.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I think, I'm going to make a huge generalization here, but a lot of these young people come in angry at the world and at the system, which is hugely relatable for me. I used to be a really angry young person, and I think our society doesn't really value rage and anger that much, but it should. I think if you can tap into that divine rage, that's how you're going to create change in the world, right?
Tell me more.
Yeah. So I would go as far as a program that I run with a co-worker called Ideas to Unf the World. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on your podcast.
We can say fuck.
Yeah, cool.
Shit,
Unfuck
whatever.
the World is the name of the program. And it was specifically designed for these young people to harness that rage and have facilitation put around connecting with game changers, people who are quite literally unfucking the world, and to look at what is it that makes them really rage, and then how can they do a project around that and address some of these issues. So it's anything from homelessness to abolishing the gay panic defence to there's just a myriad. So South Australia last year was the last state that hadn't abolished that yet.
What is it?
So in court, I'll give you an example. There was a case where a man was murdered, and the man that murdered him used the defence that his sexuality threatened me, and he had a reduced sentence because of that. It was a legitimate defence you could use.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's predominantly man to man. There was like woman to woman. They were like, women. But it was man to man. His sexuality threatened me, so I killed him. Therefore, his sentence was reduced. It has since been abolished, which is,
like recently it was
I'm talking last year.
That sounds like a I don't know.
It's embarrassing for the state. It's embarrassing for the state. But we had a particular student, Aston, who his project was to rally against it. He did a phenomenal job. And I just wish when I was in high school, opportunities like that had existed. So you can do your English, your maths, your science. They're all valid and important. But imagine also being able to explore your identity and your values and who you are. That emphasis on who you want to be, not what you want to be, I think is a real crucial piece in our system at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in reception, I was asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we had to dress up as what we wanted to be. And I put a little suit on, a little briefcase. I'm like 4 foot or less because I'm like 5 years old, bright blonde hair. Yeah. And I have this little briefcase. And I go to the mic and go, when I grow up, I want to be a lawyer, so I'm going to be a rich man. And I was too nervous to open the case and pull out all my Monopoly money and throw it around. I think it was a bit telling. I didn't want to throw the money away.
Yeah, you've honed in on something so important there, though, because we look at success, right? And it's, what does success look like? And that's completely depends on the context of the culture you're growing up in. And I think here it's being a doctor or a lawyer, right? We're all like programmed to think from such a young age that is success.
Yes.
And they are successful careers. But
in their own right, depending on what you do. But there's still poor lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah, Amber Heard's lawyer's probably not having the best time of his life right now.
Oof.
But there are other things that we don't, professions and skill sets we don't have that kind of respect for that are hugely successful. And particularly,
trades are big on that, to be honest. Like, they're making bank.
Yeah. My biggest, I'm such a fan of the cashed up bogan concept emerging because everyone started scrambling because they realised that the lower class are all of a sudden earning more than the middle class, and I love that so much. It just sent people into a spin that, these trades that they did not respect all of a sudden were in demand and paying big bucks, and these people were, the emergence was just incredible. I love it. Yeah.
No, it is cool. And I mean, going up to the river is like the quintessential vibe of that.
The river.
It's great.
Oh, it's brilliant.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so back to education and the things we all need. Okay, is you do project learning, you go into the community and you do like this whole variety of different things, and if someone's doing something that doesn't require a lot of time, like in class, for example, then they don't need to be there. But like if they do, then they need to be there. How much like guidance and support do you actually give people for doing that? Because obviously taking on these kind of projects, you wouldn't have a skill set and all this stuff.
No. So we never at any point think that we have all the knowledge to teach these young people. So that's where that using the city as a school comes in. So it's if you want to learn about something, let's go and find somebody who is a professional in that realm and let's learn from them. So a lot of what we do is facilitation. We don't like to say that we are managing their learning. We've kind of eradicated the language around management of young people. It's so authoritative.
I want to be managed.
Sometimes I wish I was. Yeah.
I just want someone to manage what I want them to do.
Yeah. But we are facilitating the learning and creating spaces that they can learn in.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's like if you want to, I guess the mural one's a great example. You want to do a mural, here's a mural artist, learn from her, do it together.
Yeah. And then we're there to put other resources and whatever they need around that. But it's essentially them being at the center of their own journey.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So how could that look like in the regular school system? Is that something that is a part of the conversation of youth and how it can be integrated into the larger existing systems? Because obviously that sounds like it would be pretty resource intensive.
So currently, no. As an organisation, you think have not set out to change the entire system. For me personally, I would like to go in and change the entire system. When I say change though, I guess I mean enhance. So they're already doing it. There's a real big shift to these entrepreneurial mindsets and skill sets. I prefer the term enterprise skills. I think that's what we should be teaching young people.
Okay, let's get linguistic. What is the difference here?
So enterprise skills, the list of them is it used to be referred to as the soft skills, right? They weren't valued as well. Hate the term soft, but
like
that is communication,
leadership.
Teamwork, leadership, critical thinking, problem solving. But that is the skill set that has the longevity. If we're looking at the workforce now, 40% of the jobs that young people are learning about and perfecting a skill set for in our current schooling system, these jobs are not going to exist in the next 10 to 15 years.
What kind of jobs is that?
So they're the ones that are going to be automated out. So things like accounting are really safe at the moment. The government released a thing in sort of June, July last year around what jobs are in demand and they're going to stay in demand and you're going to be safe in. If you look through it, a lot of them are accounting, which gets such a bad rap. Everyone says it's so boring, you're a numbers man. But it is going to be, that skill set is required and it will be for a really long time. There's no expiry date on that.
Because there's lots of taxes.
Yeah.
They're not going to
get around the tax. Yeah. It's an extensive list, but it's the automation. It's that next, fourth wave industrial revolution. We're going to go into fifth wave at some point with, I don't know what someone's going to invent, but
the Metaverse is a pretty big one.
If I love the Metaverse.
Get it. I mean, it's very beta.
Yeah.
Once it's properly.
Yeah. I mean, there's already huge industries within that. Particularly I'm going to say the sex industry in that is making bank.
Yeah, well, I mean, porn would be on a level, wouldn't it?
Yeah, in the Metaverse.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I would say, without being educated around it, it's probably, from what I've seen from just hanging out in the Metaverse, it's a huge industry there, probably the biggest within that realm.
They're very quick to jump to new things, aren't they? The porn industry. They're very flexible, no pun intended.
They overcome, adapt. They're great.
Because you're pretty into it. I see that you've got the VR goggles and stuff like that. Yeah,
I'm huge on gaming. Love the Metaverse, but going from I switched from Xbox to PC gaming to VR, and it was a game changer. And then looking at VR in the world of work. And how that's got apps and you'll see all the schools that are now advertising for enrollment right? All their ads are kids in VR. Because the educational apps on those, it's that next big selling point, I think, for them. It's we've got the latest tech. We're going to prepare your young person for the future. It's fascinating to see.
I just feel like this is like we're preparing everybody for the Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, is that not what's going on?
Or for Wall-E. I don't know. I'm scared.
Well, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Is that not what's going on?
No one makes eye contact anymore because they're, you don't need to. You're doing it through,
just
burning the life out of your retinas.
Yeah. I don't think that'd be fat, though, on those, like, big spaceships.
I hope we don't get there.
Well, I don't think we would get fat. I think, if anything, we would get on, like, little IV drips and be really skinny.
Oh,
because we wouldn't be moving much.
Oh, I like
and would get more like the greys, like the
Sorta
aliens.
Online. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Oh, it's an anime, and they get stuck in the metaverse, and then they finally get out. They are skinny and they can't walk.
They would be, right?
Yeah,
you would be. Your bones. I mean, it's like the idea of the greys. The greys could be aliens that they're actually just people that were in the metaverse for a long time on another planet, and they figured out space travel somehow.
Yeah,
and then they came here. I don't know.
It's crazy. It is. I love that you mentioned the Matrix because when my friends and I head into the Metaverse, we do use the terminology, just jacking into the Matrix. Yeah.
Just don't have to put a big rod in the back of your neck.
No, just the headset at this point. But
wait till Elon brings out his little chip.
Oh, Elon.
Oh. It freaks me out. I mean, I'm excited about it because I think, like, for example, artist and artistry inside that virtual realm is going to explode because there's literally no barriers of what you can do. Like, people are going to create whole worlds of artistry.
Yeah.
Like, imagine Salvador Dali being able to create a world.
Yeah.
Like, surrealism would have been like 3D, like you're in the dream.
Yeah.
It's going to, like,
what I love is if you want to teach, like, say you're in conventional ed and you want to teach a class about like 1950s Australia, someone's probably made a world of 1950s Adelaide and you can strap the headset on and they can walk around in it. It's pretty unreal. It's
like time travel.
Yeah, it's incredible. So instead of having to read about it and kind of try to conceptualize it, young people can then step into these worlds as if they're really standing there.
Is that already happening?
Yeah.
Is it like good animated? Because I've been noticing I haven't actually been in the Metaverse ever.
Yeah.
But I've noticed from afar that it looks pretty like Minecraft. Look.
No, it's further than Minecraft, but it is a little bit like PlayStation 2 Hagrid. It's
I love it. It's like Hagrid in particular,
specifically. It's but it's rapidly evolving. I guess the other really cool thing is like the invention of full body tracking. So typically you only kind of have from the waist up, is where it's at when you buy a set. But you've got some of these elite people that it's interesting looking at the division of classes in the metaverse. So if you've got full body tracking, you are the bourgeoisie, and if you don't, you are the proletariat community. It's it's really interesting to observe.
That is interesting. Have you read the book Brave New World?
I have.
What do you think about?
It would have been a decade ago. I read it.
Because that's like the idea that we're getting so far in terms of technology. We're going to have that's more about like what's the word for like genetic breeding? And like
I can't remember.
Eugenics. It's essentially a version of eugenics, being like, this is the elite race, like some Hitler stuff, but like another level because it's using technology to actually specifically make a different like race of people in the sense of like these are all the different things that are like considered a perfect human. Yeah,
it's fascinating.
And
it's
you had like the natural born class that were like the swine.
There's have you heard of a game called BioShock?
I have.
That is where I'm going to say my career started, my obsession with this sociological kind of concept, because the division of classes happened there despite them trying to build the perfect world. You know, they went separate from society, under the ocean, took the best of the best people and tried to establish a world there going by the kind of no gods, no kings, only man. Yet everyone goes insane in this game by the time you find out as a character, you know, the division of classes has happened and all out just civil war has broken out. Because no matter how you try to recreate the world, there's always going to be the upper, the mid and the lower classes. So it's fascinating to see it unfold.
Why do you see that?
Because if we're looking at people like Elon, who, you know, from where I'm sitting, he's got a lot of money, he looks pretty comfortable. Say then everybody had access to what he has. The second someone has more, it's not seen as luxury or being a rich person anymore. They are then the bottom, lower class. It's all comparison. It's all relative, right? Does that make sense? I feel like I've not explained that very well, but
let's go into it further.
The people who have the least are always going to be the lower class. Even if we have billion-dollar bank accounts, the people that've got $6 billion are going to be the bourgeoisie, and we're going to be the lower class.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So it's just human nature
relative.
of social structures.
Yeah.
In terms of there always has to be a social hierarchy.
Someone's always going to have lesser than.
Okay, so if that's the case, and then don't correct me if I'm wrong, but you have this dream and goal of creating a more equal world through education. How do those ideas sit together?
So the world I want is where everyone has enough. My issue with the world as it currently stands is that not everybody has what they need.
Enough of like food, water, shelter?
Yeah, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's too much suffering. So what if everybody had enough and that was the base minimum? And then I don't know how it looks with what I said before. If everybody has that, do we then start to think that that's not enough? Like, does it skew what we think is enough?
I would say so, because there's a lot of rich people that are depressed.
Yes.
So
yes.
But then that also brings in the topic that you very lightly touched on, which is transformative learning, and that being part of the top level of the self-actualization of the Maslow's hierarchy that most people in our society don't really have a focus on, as the importance to kind of unlocking that self-actualization.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is transformative learning in your experience and how you teach it?
It's in its simplest form. It's providing people with opportunities and experiences where they're going to come out of it with an enhanced sense of self and the world around them. That's how we best learn, right? Is through experiences. Events happen, we reflect on those events, and we change how we perceive the world, how we perceive ourselves. In its most basic form is that. So it's how can we provide these transformative learning experiences, and it goes beyond the project-based learning. So there's also what we call our experiential learning. We've got a brilliant man by the name of Ben Truan, who is the manager of that. And he takes our young people on a series of camps and sort of bushwalking adventure-based learning opportunities where they're really forced to dig deep and get through some pretty challenging yet pretty incredible experiences throughout the 18 months that they're with us.
What kind of things? Because I say this because I have been one to put myself in really difficult situations to grow and develop.
Yeah.
Like I went on a 450 kilometer walk when COVID happened of 15 days to go, I want to level up at a time when
that's huge. I imagine you did level up. That's a lot of kilometers.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
George and I did it.
Yeah. Was that the recent one?
No, that was in 2020. Yeah, so at the peak of COVID, we're going on a walk.
Yeah. Big one.
Yeah, big one.
I'll give you a few examples, but I do want to highlight that it is relative to the person, right? So 5 kilometres might be just as challenging for an individual as 450 kilometres was for you. It might be the same level of challenging. It depends on their personal experience, but
it's like that idea of all struggle is supreme.
Yeah, and pain is relative, and everyone's on their own individual journey. But to give you an example, last year we took a group over to Kangaroo Island, and over 5 days we hiked what was the Wilderness Trail, so over the western side of the island. And we walked it with a tour guide because it had all been wiped out through the bushfires. We got to kind of see it 12 months post-fire with the regeneration happening. But it was something like 76 kilometres over the 5 days, which none of these young people had ever done before. And there was you could literally see the shift in them when they got to probably day 2 or 3. It wasn't a question of if I'm going to finish this, but when. And that was probably the most clear example of where that shift in mindset happens and that inner strength comes through. And it was such a privilege to walk it with them and experience that alongside these young people. Another example is they are going to engage in Op Flinders this year, which
What's
is
that?
Operation Flinders. It's widely known. So it used to be quite a militant sort of army kind of esque walk that young people would engage in high school. And it used to have this stigma that it was for naughty kids. It's absolutely not. It is a really challenging Outback Walk.
How long? Roughly. It's
Unsure.
like
It's pretty big.
like huge, like 500, 600, 700 or like 200 or?
I couldn't say.
Okay.
Sorry.
And it's like rocky terrain or something? Because
It's,
Flinders is pretty...
My understanding, so I haven't personally walked it, but you get there, you get dropped in at your starting point and you get told sort of, day one, you got a box with like tarp and rope and the bare minimum things you need to create sleeping stuff and food. And you got 10 Ks to your next point where you're setting up camp for the night, walk. So it's, as you can imagine, really teamwork based. And
How many people are in a team? Don't know.
Depends, but the
sounds
educators
fun.
from the schools go along with them. So you've got your Op Flinders person.
They're not going to die.
No, absolutely not. But they might
Okay.
think that. I can imagine that at
not
some point
it's not
during there,
Survivor.
you may question if you're going to make it.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. What do you think it is about a big old walk and being a human that really has us grow and develop? Like, it's such a simple thing.
I think it's twofold. So one part I think is actually just getting back in touch with nature. We're animals. We're not built to be in this invented world. I hate it. If we could just get in touch with nature more, I think everyone would be a lot happier.
I love how you say that, but you're like, oh yeah, the metaverse is awesome.
But you know the funny thing about the metaverse is we're all frolicking around in there like feeding fake ducks and getting in touch with nature in there. Like it's so bad. It's so bad. That was the point where I realised I'd been on there too long this one day because I was feeding ducks and I literally live like across the road from real ducks. That I could have been feeding. Yeah, got to be careful. But I think the other part is that it comes back to that transformative learning, right? I really strongly believe that we change and develop through adversity. So it's when you're going through something either really horrific or traumatic or just challenging, that is where you are really forced to dig deep and look within. And that's where we have these incredible breakthroughs. And it's not in the moment, but it's the hindsight after where we realize new things. It's the looking back. That's that most crucial point. That's where reflection is so, so important.
So in terms of being a part of an operation that manufactures these kind of experiences to bring about positive change, how do you cope with someone that will go through an experience like that and actually not retrieve the positive strength out of it?
It's all about the timeline, right? You might have young people that you can see they're pulling the positives out of it 3 days after it's happened. And we might have young people that have graduated and we still never saw them get to that point. But it's because their journey is completely personal to them. There are some people who may possibly never, ever get to the point. But I firmly believe that at some point in their own journey, when they're ready, they do and they will. But you got to let people find it themselves.
Okay, so there's no like, hey, let's debrief things.
No, we do debrief. Absolutely. You have to debrief. But people come to, the conclusions about themselves in their own time and that realization of things within themselves, that can't be taught.
What would a debrief look like then?
You got to look at the good, you got to look at the bad, and you got to unpack it as a team together.
So you just say, hey, what's the good about this experience? What's the bad?
Yeah. And
How
I think
you feeling?
The really important part is that staff are not separate from that. We're not going, yeah, we did it, but it's all you and we need a debrief about you. It's we need to look at our mistakes as well in it, and it's all, you got to remove the hierarchy at that table.
Yeah, well, I feel like especially with the age group you're dealing with that, it's a lot simpler to do that.
Yeah, well, I'm only 4 years older than our oldest student as well. So it's kind of, we're all in it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like doing
really
that
cool.
with little kids would add like a whole nother realm of...
With underage young people, it's different because you do have sort of a bigger duty of care. Yeah, it's a bit different. Whereas when you're all adults together,
but that's only here at the same time.
Yeah,
because of the culture in which we live in Australia. You go to another
that's
country,
true.
you know, kids are out working, man.
Yeah,
Kids
that's
out,
true.
you know, they're 10 years old. They're acting like 30-year-olds here.
Yeah,
and you're like,
that's
what's going on with this kid?
it's like cultural relativism, isn't it? Yeah.
You're like, this 10-year-old's ready to feed a family.
Yeah. Did you see that YouTube video that went viral like 5 years ago of the 2-year-old just smoking? They just pack a day, like, I was in
So
Thailand
bad.
or somewhere. I know. It was awful. It was awful. Shocking task because it's that ethnocentric piece, right? It's that,
I couldn't believe it. Like, it was like a movie. Because
What was the movie?
like seeing a 2-year-old smoking is like, where does that happen? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unreal, right?
Yeah.
It's uncanny to,
But then the world's changing. It's crazy.
it's going places, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. So have you done any other kind of like adventure activities with people? Is walking a pretty like pivotal one that...
Those are the sort of the two examples I gave were probably the most challenging, but they're not always challenging. Sometimes these experiences are, they've done the snorkel with have you seen the breeding season with the cuttlefish in Wyala?
No.
They glow like electro colours in the water.
I should go do that.
Yeah, I haven't actually done it yet,
Sounds pretty cool.
but Ben took a crew to do that. He has many times. Sometimes they are just adventure based, and it's not about that challenge and that push. It's about the adventure and the journey. So it looks like a million different things. That kind of that form of learning.
I love this, Alexandra, because I feel like I have just like naturally gravitated towards everything you are saying.
Good, I'm glad. It would
And
have been
I love
awkward if
that.
you didn't.
No, but you know what I mean? Like,
Same here on a big level.
yeah,
Because everything we just talked about is what I'm helping to try and implement in the Adelaide Youth Hub.
that's
It's
wild.
Awesome.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Spot on, man. Spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the other bit is there's a well-being aspect, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on well-being, because we unpacked it the other day, and it's obviously like its baseline definition is it's not just being not sick, it's actually living well. And for a lot of young people, I think our mental health crisis is the worst it's been, historically ever. And it's how do you allow young people to, do all this studying and all these experiences and all this stuff while still living well? How do they manage their stress? And we've tried to embed that within our program, so it's not a separate thing where you need to go see a school counsellor and it's segregated, or you need to see a psychologist. It's just built into the programming. But
So what does that look like?
So we've got life navigators and life coaches on board who come in and do everything with us. They're not separate from. We don't have the siloed approach within the organisation, and they're there for young people to talk to, chat to, bounce ideas off, and help with strategies around navigating life. What we don't have is counsellors, social workers, any of those people on board. It's not what we're setting out to do. We're not a crisis care.
Fair. Can you bring this down to like experience to me in terms of like what is it that you guys actually talk about with people? Like what is
With a
what
life
is well-being?
navigator?
What is a life navigator?
Yeah. Like the first thing you do is unpack what well-being is.
What is it?
It's living well, right? So it's not just like, say I get COVID,
Yeah.
I'm not living well. It doesn't mean that once I'm cured of COVID, my well-being is then 10 out of 10. It encompasses my physical health, my emotional health, mental health, my spiritual health. It embodies all of those things, right? And they are all above a 5. They're not just baseline, they're okay. They're good.
What do you think spiritual health means?
Depends who you're talking to
Talking to
and their beliefs, right?
Talking to you.
I am not a particularly spiritual individual. I am a dead straight, just atheist, don't believe in a higher being. This is all there is. Most sociologists I think you speak to are pretty grim like that. We're known for being grim people. So I'm not a great person to ask, because everyone's organic matter and that's all there is. But a lot of people are hugely spiritual, believing in there being more than just this is hugely important for a lot of people to carry on, keep going. I don't want to speak for them.
What about ghosts?
Ghosts.
What about ghosts?
No.
What?
Silly.
You just think they're not a thing?
Nah,
There's been
absolutely not.
What about when there's like a kid that will get like hit on the head, and then he will just be like a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old, and then they'll just be able to completely speak another language they've had no introduction to.
Did you say you got hit on the head?
Yeah, but like speak fluently.
That is a brain injury, my friend.
A whole nother language.
Yeah, it's wild, but that's not ghosts. I don't know what that is.
No, that's not ghosts, but that's something.
That's something.
If you've had no introduction to like
unlocking,
Spanish.
like if you've taken a hit to the head and it's unlocked something in your brain. Like what's that movie with Scarlett Johansson in it, and she can access the whole of the brain.
Yeah, but if you've had no experience to it, and there's nothing spiritual,
there has to be an experience. They have to have seen something somewhere on TV or somewhere, and the brain doesn't remember it. It goes into
but the whole language?
Oof, I don't know.
The whole
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. How can you explain that?
I don't know. I don't believe it's divine intervention. It's not. I can't. Nah.
Have you heard of the idea of like universal consciousness?
No. What is this?
Okay.
It's like a hive mind thing?
In a sense. So it's like essentially it's based off like the Kybalion principle of like there's the all, right? The all is the all. The universe, let's say the universe is this neat little package, and that's everything. That's everything there is. We are part of the all. We are not the all, but we are part of this all. And as this all, it's like a consciousness in itself, and that we are all just that consciousness experiencing itself. And we're just fortunate enough with this brain that we have that we get to have this like completely individual experience where we have our own like little universe in our head. Because we are a part of this all, there actually is the theory is that there's an interconnectedness of everything. So we actually can access through going within the all. We can experience the all. Doesn't mean we are the all. We are part of the all. But we can experience this allness or this oneness.
I like
as
that.
a part of that.
I love that.
And that being like that spiritual, but also doesn't necessarily go against the idea of like we are this biomass. But it's like there's also something bigger in that it's the all. It's the everything, and it's all one.
Sounds like Carl Sagan.
I was about to say the deep time concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was literally about to say the same thing. Yeah.
I don't know that one.
Do I know it?
No, I haven't really studied Carl Sagan much.
So in the 70s, Carl Sagan put all of Earth's time, he did all of cosmic time, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to reel it into Earth. He put all of Earth's time, 4.6 billion years as we know it, onto a 12-month timeline so that we could better conceptualize existence. Life doesn't start till maybe like 26th of February. That's where the first single-celled organism came into being. And it goes along this timeline to when that, developed a nucleus. It could go through photosynthesis. They could have sex, and it started life. It goes through to when there's dinosaurs, when they became extinct. But essentially, humans have only been here by that logic for 2 seconds on this 1 year timeline. So we've been here for 2 seconds, and look at what we've done with the place. And it's pretty horrific when you go through it slowly, and it's scary. I can't remember why I brought it up. Why was I talking about
I feel like you bringing it up is also coming back to your point of we are all oneness. Like
yes,
one thing will affect one thing, but it affects a lot of different things. If you look at atoms and things like that. Yeah.
I mean that's a whole other thing. It's like there's like such a huge amount of space inside an atom. Like that's.
I brought it up because when I was learning about it, I learnt that when we're looking at First Nations wisdom, I was speaking to a couple of First Nations people, and that timeline is not that humans came in at that last 2 seconds. It's the belief and the understanding that it's from that first single-celled organism that they have been one for eternity with these beings. They are.
You say you're an atheist. How are you an atheist with even knowing that? How are you an atheist? Like, surely that is something.
Yeah, it's something.
It's something.
I will admit that stubborn as I am in my opinions, that took me away. The concept, the First Nations wisdom, all of that did take me somewhere. It might have shifted
Ladies
me
and
for a
gentlemen,
moment.
Alexandra Bruhn has been entertaining the idea of being agnostic now.
I've had a
You've heard it here
transformative
first.
learning experience.
That's good.
Welcome to the seminar. I'm your coach.
I should be paying you for this. Yeah.
That's okay. We'll let this one slide.
Part of the voyage.
That's it. We're on the voyage. Okay, cool. So in terms of your journey and how you know, anthropology, sociology, like how did you gravitate towards this? The video game was the first idea about this social class structure that is just never ending. But in terms of from there, where'd you go?
I guess like going back to the video game, I was maybe 15 years old when I went to a friend's house after school, played it on an Xbox 360, fell in love with it, followed the journey and realised that I wasn't the only person that thought society was awful and corrupt, and I wasn't just an angsty teenager. I was onto something. Unfortunately, the way the world is and the education system is they don't like people that deviate from the norm and challenge society and ask questions. So, yeah, I didn't pursue a lot of it in my teenage years, and it wasn't until maybe a couple of really terrible things had happened to me. I've spent my fair share of time in inpatient in mental health institutions, and it's adverse things like that which led to me coming out of that, surviving it, and realising that I didn't want to just assimilate into the world the way that it is. I wanted to change it. I didn't want other people to suffer the way that I had.
Is that something that you can digress into, or is that private?
I'm going to say it's private. It's
Okay.
not a story I've shared yet.
Fair.
So as part of my journey, I probably should. I'm very everyone needs to share their truth. Everything's all about storytelling and truth-telling, but it's really ironic because I have not yet got to that point. So I just, loosely go over it as, adversity.
Yeah,
It's timing, I reckon.
It is. It is timing.
Divine timing.
Divine timing. But it's, as I said before, it's being able to tap into the divine rage. Like I was angry at the world after things like that. And you can either sit in it and go, why me? Right? And you can hang on to it forever, or you can turn that rage into fuel and then combine it with, building up your knowledge and your skills and weaponizing your story.
And
right?
is that what you, like, what was the light bulb moment that led to you being able to even do that?
I think a lot of it was finding the organisation. You think it was finding,
you found. You think,
yeah, and the other one is the Global Shapers are another group. So I didn't think that anybody thought the way that I thought until I found those two organisations.
And how old were you when you found these organisations?
24. Like,
Okay, so was this like in and out of mental health stuff was like what, from like the end of school till like 23 type thing, or like
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there are a number of things that had happened, from childhood till then, but the worst ones happened in my early 20s. And then it was wanting to change the world. I didn't know any other people. I'm a millennial. I didn't know anyone else my age that did anything beyond working a 9 to 5 they hated and getting drunk on the weekend. And it was finding other young people like in the Global Shapers Adelaide Hub and then at You Think with a willingness to create change, a willingness to put time and energy and effort into creating change.
How did you find those things?
So You Think, I actually started off as a student. I was not always staff there, and I was a really angry, I can imagine not easy to work with young person. But all of a sudden I then had a safe space and I had resources and I had people to work with in order to create the change that I wanted to see in the world. And I think it was because I lost that feeling of defeat, thinking that I couldn't create change. It was the realization that I could, which put a glimmer of hope back in my life. And then it was finding the Global Shapers group, which was through You Think. I happened to go to one of their events as part of my studies, and by some miracle found a group of people under the age of 30 who thought the way that I thought and did the work that I was wanting to do. And all of a sudden then I had a community. And then all of a sudden we all had each other. And it's that it's that bit around, no one person changes the world. It's never ever a single person. It is a, cohort. It's a community. That's how it happens.
Team sport.
Yeah. It is absolutely a team sport.
Yeah. I had an epiphany about that the other day.
Yeah.
I was thinking about just like, I was getting like so overwhelmed about how just like crazy organization societies are.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure it out all at once.
Yeah.
And it was just so overwhelming. I was like, oh my God, like this is the craziest stuff ever. And then I was like, oh, the only way to do things is creating teams, because that's literally what society is. It's just a whole bunch of teams saying, I'm doing these roles, I'm doing these roles, I'm doing these roles. And obviously there's structures of how to incentivize people to do things you want, of course. But in terms of like trying to be like the mastermind, even that is like, that's a team sport activity to be the master planners of societies. And it's pretty incredible that we've even been able to get to the point that we're at, because there was so much organization that had to be built to even be able to get to this point.
Yeah.
Like we could so easily just be in tribal warfare, but we have somehow been able to hold this society together where it's like, no, I respect these bits of paper.
Yeah.
That stop you from killing me and taking my stuff.
Oh, it's so morbid, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, I can't kill you because I've been socially programmed to think that that's barbaric.
It's fragile.
It's
so fragile.
What do you think of policy making? Like policy making and how...
Yeah, but that's what this is, right?
I have similar thoughts all the time, right? You get to a point in your brain where you're like, everything is a construct, and you're like, why do I have to respect it? Why can't I just
What are the
start
consequences?
setting things on fire? Well, that's it, because someone with more power than me
we might take your rights.
put a consequence in. Yeah. And at least I'm not going to lose like my right eye like back in some decade, but like there's still consequences.
Or country. Not everyone is at the
that's true.
point where we're at.
Some people, that's totally normal.
The Maslow's hierarchy for the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all there yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, just when you get to the point where you realize everything's just a construct, and you're like, who made these rules?
That's a good point.
Everything's just ideas.
Yeah.
Everything.
It is. It's just ideas, and then you create stuff, and you create more off the back of that, and it just keeps rolling.
Yeah.
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 It's wild.
Makes me think. It makes me think like, what's next?
Yeah.
Where does the cohesiveness really go to now? You know.
Well, I mean, Elon's point of view is that we're going to get some chips in our brains and have a hive mind.
Hell no. I'm not doing that.
Oh, well, that's what he's doing.
Yeah. It's
what
getting
about
very
you?
Black Mirror, isn't it? It's
I mean, didn't they stop the show because they're like, too much of the stuff that we're doing is coming true?
It was getting too real, wasn't it?
Oh.
I think that's what they
getting way
literally
too
said.
real.
Because
Yeah.
so much of the stuff from their first few seasons was like happening. They're like, we're not. Well, we don't want to play a part in
Stop
this.
manifesting that. Like,
Yeah, right. Says she's not spiritual manifestation. Like, get out of here. You're like a little closet agnostic.
just expose myself like I'm telling lies. Caught in 4K. Yeah, I don't know. I just think, I always have this thing where I'm like, would I be happier if I didn't go and learn stuff and I didn't get the awareness that everything's a construct? Is that ignorance is bliss thing, right? There's so many happy people because they just don't know. But you look at them and you're like, you're stupid though. You're stupid and you're ignorant. But you wouldn't know that you were. So would I be happier?
Alexandra just walking down the street like, look at these stupid peasants. Look at these
No
stupid
awareness.
people.
No awareness.
You're unaware.
So unaware. Or do I prefer no? Because like knowing is pain though, right?
It is.
Knowing,
can be.
it's so
There's
heavy.
times.
It's so heavy being able to see the world for what it actually is.
Does it make you think of how long are you going to hold up the sign, you know?
Yeah.
But the transformative learning and these things could help.
Yeah.
Like,
I apply nihilism to itself and it kind of helps me get through it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When applied to itself, very liberating. Just on one layer of it, depressing.
Yeah.
Because you haven't applied it to itself yet.
Yeah. That sounds like a transformative learning experience in itself. The application of nihilism.
Definitely.
Itself. Yeah.
Because nihilism in the context of the world now is like, there's no point to anything. Why do I even need to live? Like, oh my God, fuck the system.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, man, this is a liberating thing because it's you can create and do and be the creation of whatever you want.
Yeah. I love the concept of anarchy. There's a student in particular at UThing that's just got the anarchy symbol tattooed to his arm, and I love it so much. It's just it's out there. I love it. It's so screw the rules. That's there's quite a few actually. There's a small group that just love it.
What's anarchy mean to you?
So it's just the rejection of society, all these constructs we're talking about. They're like, let's blow it up. Screw it. Like, I hate it. It's not serving anyone. We're living in the midst of these like post-colonial systems and lenses that are just like, I hate them.
I feel like it is serving us in so many ways. Like,
but who's it serving? Who's it in service
to? We got houses and stuff.
Has everybody got a house?
Most of us, yeah.
No, they don't. Most of us.
Under a roof in Australia.
Oh, I don't know.
In Australia.
There's a lot of couch surfing. There's a lot of...
Yeah, but you'd say at least, 90%.
Yeah, but it's
good.
good
Over their head.
Comparatively, I don't know if it's 90%.
You don't reckon?
I don't have the statistics in my brain right now, but I don't think it's 90%.
Should we look it up?
Yeah, sure.
Please look it up.
What was that?
How
many people are housed in Australia?
How many people, who's sleeping rough and couch surfing?
Because I know,
but I don't trust these stats because I don't reckon they count couch surfers. I reckon they're like, we need to make it look like it's improved over the last 5 years. So if you could just say that couch surfers actually have a roof over their head.
Couch surfing.
They don't
look
count.
it up. Look it up. Yeah. Whatever you tell me, I'm not going to believe it.
Let's just say homelessness is a pandemic.
It's a surefire way to win an argument.
Nah, that's true. How do they count couch surfing? Because young people.
I don't know. Maybe
but this is what I mean. They skew the data. This is when there was a thing the other day.
Data collection in itself is a very big task.
They were looking at the unemployment rates, right, and underemployment rates. But there's a heap of just cohorts of people they didn't count.
True.
Who were unemployed or underemployed, but because they were caring for someone or they had some kind of sickly, deadly illness, which was why they were unemployed, they were like, oh, you don't count because we need this statistic to look sexy. So they just threw a whole bunch of people under the rug and were like, hey, it's actually improved by this margin.
Well, I think it's because they're not count as employable.
Yeah, but they're still not unemployed.
Yeah, of course. But it's the technicality of if you're unemployable, you're not actually a part of the workforce. It's like having a retiree and saying you're unemployed. It's like, nah, they're not part of the workforce.
Yeah, but my point is they sold that statistic as the improvement in the employment rate.
Yeah.
I get that they're unemployable.
But it's not like they weren't counting that as part of it the whole time either.
No, but...
that was never counted.
This looks like a question for the ABS.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, but no, it's a good point though. Yeah.
I want to know. I have questions.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can't answer that one. You're not going to believe it.
That's such a ScoMo thing to say. I reject that.
I saw
the way the light
meme today
was shining on the chicken. I reject that. No, it was probably my story on Instagram.
Yeah,
it was someone doing ScoMo in high school.
Yes, that's exactly.
And he got out in a game of handball, and he was like, "No, the way the ball landed on this rock wasn't my fault.
That's a leaf.
That's a leaf. What's that? I reject that. I reject that. All right, I'm the king. You're in that square. I reject it.
You're the gents.
I'm not out. I'm not out." And things like, it's not my job, and they were like, it's literally your only job. So
it's not my job to make sure the ball doesn't go out of the square. It's your only job.
Yeah, no, the raw chicken joke has been getting me lately. The internet really lapped that up.
Yeah, I love the internet. It's
great.
It is good.
It's great.
Although it gets pretty dark.
Yeah,
it's dark.
I can't say I dive into the dark web. I'm not ready.
I don't. I think I've been on it once, but I was there for like 2 minutes and I was like, I'm outie. I don't need anything off the Silk Road.
I wasn't ready for that experience. Not sure I ever will be.
I remember I saw the Pain Olympics when I was like 10 because my brother showed me it and it wasn't very nice.
No.
I saw some dude chop his dick off with a stone, a stone.
Really exposes how we think we're so developed and yet at the same time we're so primitive still.
Yeah, there's a lot of depravity.
Yeah, a lot of depravity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Imagine being like an alien that's like 5,000 years more advanced than us right now.
Oh, looking
and you're looking
at
Earth
us.
and you're like,
It's embarrassing.
well, it'd also be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, wow, these pretty they're relatively advanced little monkeys.
Yeah.
They're getting there, they're getting there.
Or you'd be like, there's no hope for them. Look, they're literally like the planet is rotting beneath their feet by their own hand. I can't watch.
But hey, there's
it's
that
like watching an episode
energy
of the Kardashians or something. It's just you don't want to sit through it.
Yeah, nah, I'm not a fan of you, Pete Davidson. Not a fan. Kanye is the guy. We want Kanye.
We want
You got to get
Kanye.
Kanye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Kanye. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. Can I ask why?
Because he wants to design a world that creates awesomeness.
Okay.
Standing in his truth.
It's pretty vague and broad, but I like the concept.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I think it's all a part of the idea that, based off the idea of freedom, which is like you get to create your own utopia. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's actively creating his own utopia.
Yeah. Freedom's
in his own way.
Fickle thing, the concept of freedom.
Yes.
Have you ever asked an American how they feel about it?
Yeah, I lived in America for 6 months.
Ah, that's awesome.
So I had a fair few chance to
Yeah.
have freedom.
Most of my gaming group are American, and I've learnt the hard way to not bring it up in game chat.
Yeah, tell me why.
Yeah.
What kind of things you experience?
Well, I question whether they really are free, right? Because they're similar to Australia. You grow up, you go through school, and then you join the rat race, right? To make money, to live the dream, to get married, have a white picket fence, work till you retire and die. And I don't think that's really being free. But if you say that to a very patriotic American who loves their guns, it's a very offensive thing to say, I've learned.
Yeah, well, I think it's relative, right? I think it comes back to that relativism of like we're at a certain stage of society. So that type of freedom was free compared to like having to just survive. It's like now, no, I'm working to create something. Some people obviously living just to get by.
Yeah.
That's definitely a large part of Americans, but it's like they can just move. For example, they can go, I'm going to a different state or I'm going to go to a different country. You can do that.
Yeah.
So you have the option. Doesn't mean it's easy to exercise it.
Well, that's my point, right, is it not being easy to exercise it. So you think in your head, I'm free because if I want to go travel, do this, do that, do whatever I want, I can, but you are bound by – you have to work for the money.
Yeah.
You have to then join the rat race.
Yeah.
To do it. Are you actually free, or do you just believe that you are so that you will serve the state?
Well, it's a bit of both. It's definitely a bit of both because you have these foundations created. So then, if you figure out a way to get to that next level of your Maslow's hierarchy, the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
If you have a conversation with the right person, the world is your oyster. Whereas like there's just so many places where it's like because you're in that socioeconomic class, you are there forever until that whole system crumbles. You are there. You are not allowed to enter another socioeconomic class. We don't care how hard you work. We don't care who you meet. You will not be respected. You will not elevate.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the world.
It is. I still think we vaguely have that here though. We still have systems that are very subtly trying to uphold that.
Yeah, but that's
the classes
more power
need
games.
to remain how
that's
they
more
are.
power games as opposed
It's more
to
in that
actually
realm, I agree.
like from an establishment point of view of like this is how it has to go.
Yeah.
Because we do have a lot of rags to riches stories in Australia as well. So I don't think it's quite the same as like the like your North Korea version.
Oh no, it's
like,
incomparable what they're doing there compared to what we understand here.
But NFTs. I heard about just in terms of escaping the rat race thing.
Yeah.
Escaping the rat race thing. My friend told me about this NFT that was created where you buy these virtual shoes. And then you have these pair of shoes and you can buy multiple pairs of shoes and you walk, I think it's 50 minutes a day and you earn a certain amount of money through mining of like some crypto. You earn the money from mining that from walking 50 minutes a day. And if you have 10 shoes, let's say you buy a $6,000 pair of shoes, those will give you $1,000 a day. And then you could have 9 shoes in total, so you could have like 5 $1,000 shoes and then a couple big
and for
expensive
the same
shoes.
50 minutes you're earning off each shoes?
Yes.
Each pair of shoes?
Yeah, so it compound, but you're only allowed to do 50 minutes.
Yep.
It's what 150 minute.
So it's limited at 50 minutes.
It's limited at 50 minutes. So it's like you mine for that amount a day, but people are earning like tens of thousands of dollars a month for going on a 50-minute walk a day.
Yeah, where can I get like few sets of shoes?
Right?
But
isn't that just unlocking a whole new version of reality?
Yeah.
Like that is just like, I've just attained financial freedom from going on a nice walk every day. Now I can do whatever I want.
I can look after my well-being while making money. Why am I doing anything else?
And that's obviously a part of the marketing is in the code of that smart contract. It's like promoting walking, health, well-being, and that's obviously the flavor of what it's about. But in terms of the utility of doing that and how they've linked it together, it's actually creating something. It's mining a crypto, and you get to just go on a walk.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's part of that Web3 thing. Love
the web.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild. But then it's, I think people, they go, the natural is like, that's unsustainable. How are we going to create a world with that? You're not doing anything. But then you look at how much we have robotics coming into play, automation coming into play. That's actually the kind of stuff we're going to need. So then people can continue to create value or to be able to generate money and value because all the your labor, a lot of that kind of stuff is going to be done by machines.
Well, it's like, have you seen the movie Ready Player One?
No.
I have.
It's a prime example of what we're talking about.
Big time.
Tell me about
it. It's what I see. We might be there in 5-10 years. So it's where the virtual reality, the metaverse is taken over. So that's where you get your job in the real world, but you're working in the metaverse, right? That's where the currency is. That's where the jobs are being performed. Everything else has been automated. Machines are doing it. You might be manning it from the metaverse, but it's about society with all the currency is happening as you described. It's in this virtual world.
So does that mean that everybody that creates enough passive income will just be able to be out here in the regular world without any interruption? All the beaches will just be like, there's only 10 people on the beach.
They won't be on the beach because they're making bank in the metaverse.
Yeah, but won't that be like the working class? And then everybody's not the working class would get to enjoy the real world.
It's interesting. You're going to have to watch the movie. They unpack a lot of that, but it's the people at the top. It's almost the same as the way we're all doing it here. There's people at the top and the bottom, but it's all shifted into the virtual world.
Yeah, there's like a big reward where anyone, doesn't matter which class you're at, if you win that game, you get a lot of money. But then when you get close to it, like the main character is like, there were people that were after him in the real world at the same time because they're also looking for it.
Yeah, because they're like, we know this guy.
Incredible exploration of the relationship between the real and the meta. And because
you'd be in danger when you're all plugged in, right? Because they could just come and kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have to be in like a padded cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, have fun.
But if you're a lower class, you can't afford a padded cell.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Building a makeshift.
Oh, that's right.
Would be good at it.
There was a whole company in the outside world that has, a whole like building that has people that come and work there and they're searching for that thing.
Yeah. He's got the resources, he's got the people, he's got the power, he's got everything to find it, and he's versing some kid that has himself.
Ready Player One. Let's watch it sometime.
Yeah. Stream it.
You can watch it
in the metaverse. Yeah.
So in terms of when you went for, like, you met these people, when did you start sociology and anthropology?
So originally I started my degree in social work, and that was 2014. But after completing first year of that, I realised that if I wanted to be able to create systems change, it wasn't through that route. Through that, you can do as much as you can do within the frameworks that already exist, but you can't change the frameworks. So I then shifted into sociology, anthropology, which obviously don't have like a direct, social work, you can become a social worker. When I went into the social science, it's going to open up a myriad of doors in a number of different professions.
Explain that to me, because it seems like it's a very loose degree in my mind of like what it even is and what you can do with it.
So what I specialize in, so anthropology there's a lot of different types. Everyone's probably seen there's a TV series called Bones, and there's a chick on it that does forensic anthropology, and everyone makes an assumption that that's what it is because they've all seen it on Bones.
I thought it was the study of culture.
Mankind.
Oh.
Yeah, but there's different types. So forensic is, essentially solving murders with it. What I hone in on is nothing like that. It's a lot to do with the way human identity is constructed and maintained, and how it shifts and changes. And then it's also, there's a huge historic piece to it of, like you said, culture, not incorrect. It's, mankind.
It's just a part of it.
It's a huge part of it, because it's how man has operated historically up until now.
It's like the construct,
How is the human construct created?
Of like the human identity?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a theory that there's two ways. One is that we tell people who we think we are, and then we use behavior to try and show that, right? So when I introduce myself to you and I say I do anthropology and I work in education and I really like gaming, I then use behavior to show that that is who I am. The other way is other people tell you who you are, and there is some resistance. Like if you tried to tell me I was a farmer, I'd obviously be like, no, I'm not. But it's proven there's an impact. So if I say, oh, you're a real pessimist, and then everyone starts telling you you're a pessimist, on a long enough timeline, you will adopt that into your identity and it will manifest. It becomes who you are. So it's the internal you telling, and it's other people telling you, is how it constructs who you are. I love the argument about people don't change. I completely disagree. Some people will fight to the death believing that people don't change. I believe that if you're not changing, you're not experiencing enough, right? So if you go through events and enough experiences, they do change you. If you're not changing, you're just dying, really. You're either growing or you're dying, is my theory.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you're growing and you're dying, and then your identity is created who you think you are, or who other people think you are.
Yep.
Or who you think, what you think other people think you are.
Yeah.
It's probably more.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. Yeah.
Because
then you start to think, am I? And then you're like, yeah, I am.
Yeah. I've had that.
Yeah.
I think we've all had that.
Has it made you behave a certain way because someone else told you were something that you didn't know you were?
Yeah, well, I had this breakdown. Like my first question when I did a personal development course to like the leader at the front of the room that was doing the course, well, I was like, when I hang out with different people, I feel like I'm being who I think I should be around them, as opposed to who I think I really am. And he goes,
yeah,
you're just being who you're being. I was like, no, I'm being who I think they want me to be.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're just being who you're being. Sit down. And I was like, oh, I don't get it. And then I sat there for a few hours and it clicked. And I was like, oh, shit.
A few hours. I would have sat there for a few days just like, fuck.
Yeah, well, no, I was in this like, I was in this mode, like, because it's like 3 full days of just like introspection, and you're seeing all these people have these like light bulb moments. Yeah. And it's all done through linguistics and like telling the stories of things that have like traumatized people, or even something simple as what I said.
Yeah.
And you just because you're also going through these different like modules of ideas. Yeah. And then you're applying your life to these different ideas, and while they're doing it up there, you're doing it here, and vice versa. And yeah, that was a big one. It was like you're just being who you're being at the time you're being it. And when you realize that, you can actually have a say in it.
Yeah. I was going to add, Hamish, when you're saying you are being who you're being, it's like growing up, what models us our parenting, or our surroundings. So that sometimes impacts your identity. And then you maybe when you're socializing with others, you understand they got their own identities, and then you're like, you're being, but then you're questioning it all the time.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, it's like they give you options, I think is more to like what it is like what you're surrounded by is giving you options of what you know. So it's like what you know and what you can mimic and simulate for yourself to then do in whatever version you want to do it. But it's not that they're making you do that. It's just that that's the options that you're seeing. So therefore you're going
growth
with
orientated.
Yeah.
Or you're doing something divergent because you thought about a different idea. And then you got to fight for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the formative experience of like being a teenager, having those grumpy arguments with your parents or your authority figures and being like, go away.
Yeah.
I'm doing this how I want to do this.
Yeah, you're
You can get
asserting
stuffed.
that you are an individual with your own unique interests and talents, and it really pisses you off when your parents try to meddle with it because they're trying to keep you as, that's my angel of a son, Hamish, and you might be like, no, I am no longer.
You're going, you're my
Angel.
sculpture. No, I'm my sculpture.
I am my own sculpture. I love that. Yeah, that's what it is, and it's that fight for identity. A lot of people describe it as a fight for independence, but it really is, you're trying to work out who you think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
I wonder if that journey ever actually stops.
Never.
Shit. Nah, it's a good journey. It's a good journey. Oh, I feel like we're over half an hour in, Bior. Oh, Bior. That's all good. We still got that one going, so we can punch it in. Nah, it's all good. It happens. Bior's new to the.
Oh, it's all right. The front on angle is not very flattering. Gotta get my better side.
I know, it looks pretty good.
Jawline shots.
I set it up nicely. I was zoomed in. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Zoomed in.
Yeah, but like at like this level.
I've got a really round face. I look like the moon.
The moon.
Like a potato.
A lot of people look at the moon in awe.
It's beautiful. Great. Excellent. If I take anything from tonight, it's going to be that.
I'm glad. I mean, I think
when
that's
I
a big
step
one,
outside, I'm going to be like, yeah, he's right.
Yeah, we do. So in terms of, just because that brought me to a whole nother topic, is someone's identity to their physical appearance. What, in terms of the anthropology, sociology study that you've done, what is that relationship?
To the physical appearance?
Yeah.
I love this. This is what we call play. Like, it's work and it's play in the construction of human identity. And you'll see it in, like, say if I'd come in tonight wearing like big goth boots with a heap of piercings and like a leather jacket, that would be me using the clothing on my back to try and assert to you guys that I am edgy or I am this kind of person. Or maybe I come in with like an anime t-shirt on and like rainbow hair, and I don't know. There's types of people that I might want you to think that I am. So you use that, and that's a behavior. It's a passive behavior with me, non-verbally telling you guys this is who I am, and I want you to treat me as if I'm one of these people.
Dude, I just had an epiphany.
Things like clicking.
Oh my God, I just had a whole idea of my own personal identity with like how I dress.
Yeah.
Because I dress so different. I was like, just as you said, I was like, why do I do that?
After I started studying it, I reckon I went about a year waking up every morning being like, did I put this blazer on because I want to wear it and I think it's who I am, or do I put it on because I think my boss will like how professional I look in a blazer?
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's
I never found the answer.
Well, I always asserted that it depends on the day, but it was also like, nah, you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can just do it for someone else.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that there's not a lot of times where you're just doing it for yourself because how you feel.
I think definitely at work, like because I'm in an organisation and there's somewhat corporate things in it, often I don't dress the way I think I am. You dress for the job, right?
Yeah, I think what I learnt that as was being responsible for your communication.
Yes, I like that. That's a really good way of putting it. And having some respect for the workplace. What about today? When you woke up today and you put on these shoes with these pants and this jumper?
Oh no, I was wearing tradie gear. I wore this for tonight. Oh yeah. I was for me. I was feeling comfy.
This was the podcast
I was sitting on the couch.
Yeah, nice.
Well, sometimes I come in a suit.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes I come in a leather jacket.
Yep.
Like I love fashion. I love experimenting with what I wear. And what I realized inside of what you were saying just before, well, this is obviously a running theory. It's something that just popped in my head, is that I dress in so many different characters because I don't want to be boxed into a single view of who I am, because I don't see myself as a single view of who I am.
Yeah.
Can I express my point of view?
Yes.
Yeah.
You may be.
Permission granted.
I'm getting familiar. It's getting familiar with me because, you know, growing up as someone from non-speaking English background, my brother said, Bio, you have to dress presentable because that's how society is going to view you. And I was like, wait, so maybe that's why we have divisions that are going on and little things of discrimination. Okay, cool. So from that day on, every day, I'm presentable. And I'm getting comments like in school, you're always presentable. And then it's like when you have the uniform, it's like 0 absence, 0 late, and excellent uniform. And I had to carry that, and I did because I realized, unfortunately, there's a situation I'm going to be in where I'm trying to prove my identity in the first place. So it was paramount for me to do that. And I was like, all right, cool. So that's what shaped my understanding on presentable, and then it's also in the workplace, but in life as well.
Yeah. It brings attention to a really important thing though. Like, say you're a marginalized young person trying to get a job where you need to look presentable, but you don't have access to the clothes to look the part of who you're trying to show that you are. That it makes me so angry. Yeah, we see it a lot. You've got people on minimum wage or no wage just trying to make it in the world, working their asses off.
Sure,
they don't look the part.
It's not really that.
Yeah, but what if you got no money for the op shop? What if you are living paycheck to paycheck and 30% of that is your rent, and then the rest of it is you're going to have to choose between food and bills or an outfit for a job interview. Like, that's how dire the circumstance is for a significant number of young people in this state.
But surely you can get something from op shop like $20.
There are services you can access, but it is
it's a stressful
you have
thing
to choose, right?
It's a stressful thing that really shouldn't be there, but it's there.
Yeah, well, I do agree. It's a stressful thing to do it and to be that. But I think
some people don't just have $20.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Yeah.
But that's just my experience.
Yeah. No, well, that's valid. Yeah. I agree. I was always told to be presentable. It was a big deal with my mum. She was like, you must be. It's the way to be. Yeah. And she did that. And she did really well. But she did it with a very flamboyant way. So then I did it in a very flamboyant way.
Good. I like flamboyant fashion.
It's fun.
Yeah. I thought I was really unique with my fashion for a while. I used to rock like a suit with sneakers, and then someone told me I looked like Ellen DeGeneres, and I realised I must have just subconsciously just stolen it from Ellen. And it's ruined it. Because I don't feel original anymore. I was like, that's my special thing. And I'm like, no, that's that millionaire's special thing.
Nah, you just got to wear different sneakers.
Well, I don't think she wears Nikes, does she?
That's all right then. You're doing
Nikes are my thing. Yeah. Who else wears Nike?
Nobody wears Nikes. What do you mean? They're like some boutique brand, right?
Yeah. Oh, niche. Yeah. I made these with my bare hands. No.
It's pretty cool how people design their Nikes. You know, there's cool. The painting ones.
You can do your own?
Yeah.
Yeah. I nearly did that for a pair of footy boots, but I didn't know if they'd fit me ordering online, so I got scared.
I always have that experience. I hate shopping online. Oh. It just does my head in.
Risky business.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
I just don't like when they come late. Most of the time.
Yeah. So, I need this for something on Friday and it might not be here till Monday.
Yeah. Or it might just not come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you got to go to the post office and then go pick it up.
In friggin'
and then plead your case at the post office.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
They ask for your ID. I didn't bring it. They're like, can't have your package.
You're like,
so embarrassing, like a fraud.
I just wanted my socks. At your local
post office. You look like you're trying to steal, you're trying to steal someone's clothing order.
You're just going to go home and cry.
Oh God!
They probably need to get some sort of lawyer for these type of things, man. Because I'm sick of not getting my things get received, especially when it's a company that is overseas and they just don't respond to you.
Amazon. I mean, no, not
Amazon's
Amazon.
amazing.
No. Use PayPal.
PayPal, yeah.
Use PayPal.
Like accountability.
Yeah, no. Well, you can actually get a refund. You can claim and just get a refund on anything, and then it will stitch the supplier up, not you.
Yeah.
Well, that's the answer.
Amazon's amazing. They can tip me later for plugging this, but when I first got my VR, it didn't work. And I was really angry, and everyone was like, just leave it. It needs to do the initial setup. 3 days go by and it's still just stuck on this setup screen. And I was like, no, this is broken. reached out and they were like, yeah, we've already sent out your new one, and then here's your thing, so we'll pay for you to return the other one. And when I returned, I forgot like one little piece of it, and they just never said anything.
Well, that's
Great.
good.
They're amazing. So they didn't want to receive the return before they sent out the new one. They were like, just have it. You should just have this VR set, and then send the other one back. And they were just,
great service.
Yeah, I mean, there's also
love Amazon.
Because and they expect you to, because obviously now we all got profiles and it's like digital identities becoming like the most important.
And they were like, she might be spending money in the metaverse. Give her the headset.
Yes,
Did I?
it's true. I bet you are.
I haven't yet.
Oh, no,
I haven't. No, it's so tempting.
Didn't you have to like pay to play?
Nah, so you get store credit. Well, I had to buy obviously the headset and but the first game you get like $47 of store credit when you're new on there. So I
Does
got
that
a
go
game.
far?
Nah, it's like one game.
Oh,
But then VR chat is free, and that's the social one where you can go like club hopping, where you can go to all these different worlds. I was feeding the ducks. It's free.
feeding the ducks is free.
Everyone's in there all together. It's crazy. It's really great for like meeting people abroad, because you're all just hanging out. Get your own avatar, series of avatars. I've got one that looks like Steve Irwin's brilliant.
Real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's wild.
I can't believe we're in this time. Like, I think a few years back, we used to just watch this on The Simpsons or something.
Yeah.
That's true. They keep
Yeah.
predicting
Or like log
everything.
into like Omegle. Do you remember that?
Yes.
MSN.
MSN, yeah.
Now look,
Now
Omegle.
we're in it.
we're in
was
the
good.
world, standing in the room with other people virtually. It's crazy.
That is weird.
Yeah, it's
Wait.
incredible for businesses. There's an app, I can't remember what it's called, through Oculus. And if you want to do a board meeting, but your business is global, you can all be sitting in that room together in the
that's really
virtual. And
good.
it's like you and I are sitting next to each other right now.
Yeah.
It is like you're sitting in a boardroom, and that must be doing wonders. Like globalization it's just,
Yeah, I was listening to
equipped us.
Mark Zuckerberg
yeah,
talk about it with Lex Fridman.
yeah.
And that was very interesting in how they're developing like the touch side of things.
Oh,
He
yeah.
says like
That's
once you get to
game
the level
changer.
where you can like actually feel things, like that's
Yeah.
when it's really going to start ramping up. Because
Yeah, I was looking online at full body tracking, and this like Tesla suit popped up. It's I don't know
Tesla
what it's a suit, like you zip into it like a penguin. I don't know what it does. Should have looked into it more. But it looked pretty elite. I think you can feel things. Like, can you imagine playing a
I
combat
heard about
game
that. Yeah.
and you get hit in the arm and it
then
can simulate the hit?
Yeah.
Like, incredible gaming experience.
Whoa, that
I would pay
that might be a bit dangerous.
big money. I don't know how they get past the ethics
Yeah.
of it.
True.
But I'm sure they will. Like, it's,
Yeah.
all right, big question.
yeah.
What do you see as like the ideal model education system based on what you know now? Take me through. What would the Bruhn Academy look like?
So, holding the young people at the centre is like the biggest non-negotiable thing for me. If I had my own, it's about they are leading their journeys, and us as educators are following their lead and facilitating around their lead. And a lot of it is working towards a future that these young people want, not just one they're just inheriting from the generations before them. I think there's a lot of blame between generations because of the economy they're inheriting, and you hear all these jokes like, oh, Barbara ruined the economy. Like, don't poke your fingers at me because I've got holes in my genes, fix the economy. Like, I don't like this finger pointing stuff, but if we could create educational environments where young people can be the leaders of their own journey, and we hold them in the centre and put the funding and the resources and the facilitation around them so that they can lead the way into the future, one that they want to design, because they are inevitably inheriting this world, that would do it justice.
I agree. I feel that might be the key to real change, hopefully in the future.
Yeah.
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 Good.
That's wild. What about teaching the basics? How do you think that would go?
When you say the basics, do you mean like numeracy, literacy, those kind of things?
Yep.
They're important, but again, it depends. You'd have to unpack, and I haven't put any thought to this, but do we teach them because they are skills that are in service to upholding the system the way it is? They're the pathway into the next things you're going to learn to get a career as another worker?
Well,
or do we teach them because they are essential, non-negotiable skills that you need?
Well, I think I'd say so. Knowing how to read and knowing how to talk.
I'd say they're important because they're communicative means.
And math, basic math. Like, how much in your life do you use basic math?
Quick maths.
Quick math.
Quick math.
You know, times, serve, division. Division, not so much, but you do use division.
Yeah.
You know, I use a fair bit of quick math at the moment.
We go way too ham when we're like, you should learn Pythagoras theorem, and young people are like, I would like to learn how to do my own taxes or change a tyre, and we're like, no, you're going to learn the recorder, you're going to learn Pythagoras theorem, and you're going to learn that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and that's what you will leave with, but you will not leave with any practical skills.
That I agree with.
Yeah.
You definitely need more practical skills orientated, but I mean, the ethos previously has been that's what you're supposed to learn at home. But that obviously doesn't serve a lot of people. And at the same time, it is a part of the bigger discussion of what is the state's responsibility and what is the individual and family's responsibility.
Spot on.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is we haven't shifted rapidly enough to move with the way the Industrial Revolution has. So working's changed, family life has changed. When you look at the nuclear families, you know, you used to have someone home for child rearing and housework. We don't anymore. Everyone's working like a dog. No one's got the time to do it, so everyone's burnt out. And then it comes to, those practical skills that used to make sense that they were learnt at home. It no longer, at the point we're at in history right now, makes sense. Yep. No one's got the bandwidth to do so. So now we need to shift and adapt and pivot and all those wonderful buzzwords to adapt to that.
I think, isn't that just wild though, that that's even the case? Because the whole idea of the Industrial Revolution was like, you're going to not have to work 7 days. You're only going to have to work 5 days.
Yeah, and we'll get a union.
We're going to have an 8-hour, we're going to have an 8-hour day.
Rights. Yeah.
I think it's probably 12-hour back then, but it was like you're going to have this like certain hour day, and then you're going to be able to enjoy these 2 days, and
you can actually see your family, and people like, and it was great at the time. It was
now
incredible.
Everybody's working. Now it's like trying to go back to like, how do we get everybody to work 24/7? Let's go.
Yeah.
Wow.
But there is a shift in, where was it? Somewhere's moved to a 4-day working week, and it's...
Yeah, there's Swiss companies. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Who else is going to do those
Swiss,
wild, revolutionary future ideas?
Yeah, and it's incredible, and if only people followed suit, but we're just doing so much production for production's sake, just trying to, I don't know.
Well, I think there's a few reasons.
What's everyone doing?
There's a few reasons. Those countries are set up to be able to do those things in the sense of, for businesses, they have very little taxes. So those are allowed to flourish a lot in terms of, have good profits and all that, pay their workers, and because they're not huge countries in terms of distance to everything, their amenities are through the roof. Their amenities by the government are great, and that's why everybody's happy to pay 60% because they're actually getting their bang for their buck. So it works really well there. But from what I've learnt, in Australia, it's just harder to replicate that because we're so big. Like, we forget, like, we are essentially the size of the United States of America, and that has like something like, is it 20? Isn't it 32 states or 42 states?
Yeah,
52.
50. There you go. 52 states. Like, they have 52 states,
that right.
and we have 8.
8.
And we're only we're a million acres smaller.
What's the difference in population? Do you know, compared to the US to here?
Oh yeah, we're like 24 million. They're like 370 million.
Yeah, see, they got the people power
different.
To make that economy boom. We got a lot of.
Yeah. So just as an example of like the density, for us to be able to replicate that system's really difficult in our current status of things. And we don't really have anything that's like having us be that like really like high level superpower stuff. Like Western Australia, probably. If they were just to do it by themselves and set up their own thing because they have so much mining, that would kind of be like what a Swiss country would do, I assume. I'm probably ignorant on this, but from my knowledge. But we have uranium, and supposedly if we start mining that, it will be like, I don't know, like 10 times the wealth of Dubai or something because we just have so much. But somebody told me from a skeptical point of view of like the reason why they don't want to do it is because the energy density is like a golf ball for your entire life, whereas like coal, it's a lot more than that per person. So it's like the actual amount that we would need for the world is a lot less.
Yeah.
So it's not as profitable.
Yeah. It's also, there's a lot of people heavily against the mining industry and the coal. So it's
that's already happening.
There's the
you know what I mean? That's already that's well established.
Yeah.
I'm not caught up with the news, but what's at the moment topical in politics? That's a good question.
The elections going on.
Yeah,
Not just
but
in
what
Australia.
irritates me about that is everyone's talking about ScoMo as raw chicken. They're not actually talking about what he stands for, or like what's happening.
Yeah.
Like that's another thing when we're talking, political literacy
Yep.
in young people.
Yeah.
First of all, they're not getting equipped with those skills in school,
Yeah.
and then they're coming out and voting blind or donkey voting because
Yeah.
no one's given them the knowledge that's required to make an informed vote. And then you've got the media just blasting them with ScoMo and his raw chicken. Like, sorry,
Yeah.
what? Like, how do you actually get young people to make informed
It makes that
votes
job
and
harder.
understand why their why their vote matters, and why they need to, vote either above or below the line? All these skills, they don't have that knowledge.
From my point of view, like it makes our work harder. With transformative learning, like getting them to understand their place in society and as an individual, and then letting them know that the systems work like this through the political literacy. It's an extra step.
Yeah,
But
they're just so
they need
disillusioned with
yeah.
that system.
How do you think we can correct course on that front?
That's $1 million question. So through the Global Shapers, we've started a project on political literacy. So we've got this tiny little grassroots project around, how can we help young people, be equipped with this knowledge? But it really needs to be at it's a mass project that needs to be done across the state, across the country. And I think it needs to come from government themselves.
Sure.
It's no grassroots initiative can access every single young person and equip them with the knowledge required.
What is the knowledge required?
Well, how the voting system works.
Yeah.
How to look at a political party and what they all stand for. Difference between Labor and Liberal. Why one vote does count. Because a lot of young people don't believe that it does.
And why does it?
It's a very complex thing.
Yeah.
But the way it works and the way and looking at when you're labeling people 1 to 4 or 1 to 20, whatever you're doing, and if you don't do that, where your vote actually goes and who you're supporting, young people don't know that.
Yeah, like for me, myself personally, I only was aware of that hierarchy through legal studies,
Yeah.
because you have to learn.
And if you don't pick legal studies in year 12,
then you
you
might not
don't
have a hint.
know
Yeah, you're not going to have a hint on it.
It's so interesting as well. So last year I was part of the World Economic Forum, supported the Global Shapers community to do their first cross-hub national project in Australia, and it was a consultation of 10,000 young people nationally around how they felt about a number of things, like their trust in government and climate change and issues they were inevitably inheriting. And there's a really interesting paradoxical data set in there where they were asked, whose responsibility is it to solve some of these issues? And it was in the, 90th something percent that yes, it's government's responsibility. That's what we expect of government. But the other question was, how much faith do you have the government is going to address them and will and can? And it was one of the lowest stats ever seen.
Makes sense.
So it's like, I want you to, but I don't trust you to. And it's, how do you have to regain their trust before you can start looking at their votes.
Question on that. So if it's people who don't trust the government to do it, but they think they should do it, where is the line of personal responsibility of, if they're not going to do it, we need to do it? Because it could be a part of, because there is a big culture of like, it's somebody else's fault. It's somebody, as you said, with the intergenerational,
so
somebody else's fault. It's somebody else's thing to do.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's the government's responsibility? Is like, how much in parcel do you think it's that, and not just like, okay, from like a logical, like balance point of view, it actually is, this is something that government should do?
It's hard to say without, I'd want to sit down with thousands of young people in focus groups and ask them in order to decipher what it is. I obviously can't speak on behalf of the youth of the nation.
Why not?
But I do think there's a lot of stigma around millennials and Gen Z that they're lazy and disengaged, and I actually don't think it's that. I think it's that they want to partake in society, but they're so disillusioned with it. There's a lot of grim things that they're facing, and they just don't have the trust. So it's, how do we earn back the trust of the next generation?
Yeah, and social media doesn't help.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, where do we see that social media doesn't help? from your view of things?
When it's painting them in a bad light, right? It's a lot easier to focus on the negative of a generation than it is to highlight the positive. And I think particularly in South Australia, we've got this whole thing around tall poppy syndrome, and it's too arrogant to celebrate good things. So we, a great news story is the negative one, right? Everyone gets, around that.
That's more human nature, just makes things click. So I feel like it's an international thing at the moment. It's like everything's negative news unless you get this little local news story of like, hey, little.
But do you know why
someone
that
opened
is?
a cafe.
Yeah,
I think
right.
is it social programming though?
It could be, because I feel like, okay, we've got new behaviors appearing online, but everyone's human and everyone has a different characteristics and ideals, and everybody has a different level of battling their identity, like what we just spoken on. So toxic, like clickbaiting, or like toxic. No one knows like what's acceptable, what's not, or there's no like governing of it really. Yeah.
But there is governing of social media.
In a sense.
The algorithms. It's the all-pervasive
algorithms.
I'm talking about
algorithms.
No, but I'm talking about like how people act. How can you control that? You know what I mean? Like
To the algorithms.
I think.
I get you now. You know what you mean. But are they gonna be accountable?
Well, no, because they're private companies.
Yeah.
But actually, in terms of how people have changed in terms of operating, I think a big one is girls. Every time you show an older person the Instagram feed of what people are posting, they go, "What? You guys posting that? Oh my God!" You're scrolling through it. What do you think that is? What do you think, like, the effects of everybody kind of being liberal with our bodies?
That's a really hard one. I think you've used Instagram as an example. I'm going to talk about TikTok.
Yeah,
There are people like, in my personal opinion, way too freaking open on that app. And once something's on the internet, it's in there somewhere forever, right? And there are lots of people where I look at it and I think you have stitched yourself up for life because you've just talked about something completely inappropriate in the context of this place, that if an employer saw it, you're out. You're out of the game. That's not your job. Like, you haven't got the job.
When sorry to cut you off. When I looked at TikTok and I was getting into it, because a friend of mine told me to, I said this is a bit dangerous because when you're in media, that's not gonna look good. But I only did it in the context of poetry only, because you have to be very aware. And then TikTok is a breeding ground for a lot of you touching context that you get viewed bad. Yeah, and it depends what you put out there. There are people putting out there their political views, like beyond the nudity and the just just oversharing. There is nothing is kept secret or sacred on that app anymore, and it's the world isn't ready for that. The employers aren't ready to look beyond that.
Well, right.
Yeah.
How does that? I mean, that's obviously something time will tell, but surely they just have to be if everybody's doing it.
Yeah, like I am not going to tell people what they can and can't put on the internet, and it's really no skin off my nose, but the employers are kind of dictating who's getting the jobs, right? So we talked about consequence at the beginning of tonight. There's for every act, you can do whatever you want, realistically, but every action has a consequence, and you have to weigh up that consequence. I'm not sure how many people are actually putting any thought process to what they're uploading before they upload it. It's more, can I get 1,000 likes on this? And that's what matters to me.
The algorithm.
Yeah, it's that instant gratification, and I need the validation to survive.
And going back to a little comment you made was like the question of, is it social programming? This international kind of, because we kind of have an international hive mind in many ways going on, especially in like Western world right now, I'd say. There's definitely, a lot of different mentalities and different things, but like there is definitely a growing hive mind. And if that is social programming, how do you think that's being operated? Because that's a pretty large scale social program to be orchestrated.
I guess a lot of it, when we go back to education, right, when you first start, not even school, kindergarten when you're 4, there's a big thing on, we don't have a focus on it's okay to ask questions or to challenge things, and we don't embrace deviance, right? There's a real, you need to respect your elders. You will speak when spoken to. You will raise your hand to talk. You'll ask when you can go to the bathroom, and I will grant you permission or not, and I'll tell you when you're allowed to eat.
It's cooked, isn't
So
it?
how are we supposed to, as we grow up, unlearn all of that so that we are asking questions and not just assimilating into the hive mind? How are you supposed to, how do you unjack from the matrix, right?
Yeah.
It's how do you get out of it? And a lot of it, I think the key is to change the system in that we, now more than ever need people who think differently, right? I'm a real advocate for neurodivergence to solve some of the world's most complex problems. We need different thinkers, right, to find those solutions. So let's embrace asking questions and deviance.
What's neurodivergence?
So it can be just thinking differently, but a lot of it is, an example, ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, any of the above. Like it can be in the form of intellectual disability, but it's there to put it in young people's speak. They're built different. They think differently, right? They see the world differently. It's through a different lens. And that is something we need to embrace and hold on to so tightly now more than ever at this point in history, because they're the people that are going to have the solutions to the problems.
I love that. All right, I reckon let's wrap it up here.
All right.
This has been a phenomenal conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it went
Thank
so off
you.
kilter, but I loved it. Like,
Yeah. But we still got your story.
yeah,
From I think we're pretty much, you did uni
yeah,
and then you got a job
yeah,
at You Think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was there something in between?
No, man, there's lots in between, but that was good.
Have another chat.
It's a good snapshot of, yeah.
It's a big journey, like to get this through your work. It's gonna be a journey. But I feel like you're very passionate about it, which is really good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. And the type of people required for it are not people just looking for a job
True.
in education. It's people that, that divine rage I talked about. You got to have that. Yeah.
I
You got to
feel
want it.
I feel like I wanted to share something.
Yeah.
It's like 2 minutes. Like because when you say that divine rage, that's what I had through my journey, and that's why I resonate with everything here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to also help implement in a way.
You can feel it in other people, right? When you meet them and they have it, there's
Yeah, you're just like,
there's a connection. You just know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, all right,
Yeah.
she gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when someone doesn't, you're like, oh,
How can I help?
small talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I hope you've been enjoying the voyage.
Yeah.
And it's nothing but big talk.
Yeah, that's great. I listened to some of the other episodes before I came here, and it's brilliant.
Ah,
Big fan of what you're doing.
happy to hear that.
All about storytelling. So
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you for picking that up.
yeah,
Yeah.
Awesome. Should we play it away?
Yeah. I reckon we'll put it on after. Thank you so much for coming on. Bill, anything you want to say just quickly?
Nah.
Anything
Great.
you would like to say?
no, I've
Where
said
can
enough.
people find you?
Where can they find me?
Yeah, LinkedIn or something?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
If they were like, hey, I really want to get in contact with this person.
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. It's Alex Bruhn on LinkedIn.
Bruhn. Oh my God. I said Bruhn.
BRUHN.
the whole time.
Oh, look, close enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bruhn. I'm going to get it right now. But thank you so
Brilliant.
much for coming on.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank you,
your time,
Hamish. Thank you, Via.
attention, authentic sharing, and your passionate commitment to the people on this world and making it a truly self-expressed place. Thank you.
Thank you.